So let's take a look at what's happening in the papers. And on the front page of the Daily Nation, you'll see that inside the web of lies that led police to Cohen's body, like I had said earlier, the forensic experts waded through phone data, CCTV footage, and concocted stories to solve puzzle of missing body of Dutch billionaire whose wife and alleged lover have been arrested. The story is on page 4 to 5 of the Daily Nation. Of course, the shocking news of how a businessman disappeared on the 20th of July 2019, only to be found, the body found dead. The wife is in custody, of course, expecting to face charges of murder after going through a mental check with the hospital. And so be sure to see how that pans out. You've seen a lot of conversations of a friend here, Patrick Murori, a former member of parliament, saying that Cohen had expressed fears over his life, and essentially meaning that he says rather that he suspects that Sarah Cohen was involved in this matter, but of course we leave that to the court to decide on that. And just want to raise a question with you. When you see such kind of things happening in the papers, I remember that I was in the newsroom on Friday when the DCI was at the Kitisuru home and giving revelations of what they had found in as far as the investigations are concerned. And it's shocking that we have this kind of things happening live on TV. I initially would expect them to just watch such kind of stories on movies. What's happening to the society? We have a lot of murder so far. We have a lot of disagreements in marriage or in relationships. What exactly is hurting this country or the society? This is one of the things I would now concur with my colleague, Senator Irungu Kang'ata, that it's really not new. It's just the level of exposure and the depth to which the media now is going to get information and put it out there. I have a slight problem with the manner in which this particular issue is being persecuted or prosecuted in the media. We are getting details which probably might even jeopardize investigations and might also have the effect of poisoning the minds of the public for or against certain individuals involved in this matter. Right. The courts of law would be the best place to prosecute this particular matter. We have seen in the past, and there was an incident that happened in my county. It's more than a year now. Sharon, who was found murdered and dumped in a forest. A lot happened in the media. There was a lot of talk, a lot of conversation, a lot of dissecting of the case in the media. And to date, no one has been brought to book. It is 1 year down the line. The case is still active. We had Chris Msando, who was also found murdered under very, gruesome circumstances. We would like to see the enthusiasm that DCI Kinoti is showing in these cases translate into proper investigations, which can give rise to proper prosecution and which can ensure that victims of these murders get justice. Let it not be an issue of playing to the gallery, going to Twitter and Facebook and going to the papers and saying how now you have found the body and how you're going to pin the murderers. The true test of it is ensuring that there is justice at the end of the day, not the exposés and the conspiracy theories that we have been subjected to every time there is a high-profile murder. Dr. Chris, how do you balance between, because it's a case of public interest since this disappearance and the videos that even Sarah Cohen, who is now a suspect, has been issuing, that she issued on the 10th of August, indicating that Cohen just left the home and they had they were sort of getting to reduce the disagreement they had. So how do you balance the public interest vis-a-vis the private rights of the suspects and of course the victim in this case?
Maybe before I comment on that, I just want to comment also on the family, the question that you've asked Honorable Kajwang here. I think you read Article 45 of the Constitution, which talks about family. It says family is the basis of the social order in the society. But we are losing the family values. I'm saying this because when you look at our traditional way of family, when we were being brought up, the family was that intact. And the family values were being taught. Like, for instance, girls were being taken to their grandmothers to teach them family values. Right now, when you look at family, it's like people are coming together just for purposes of convenience. There's this issue of the commercial aspect that is coming in. I've seen in the media, they're trying to profile some communities when it comes to this issue. Like right now, family is at a threat. Maybe it's the highest time the church should step in. Like in the society, we're having a lot of issues of gayism, lesbianism. last week on the floor of the House, Honorable Shamala brought, I think there was a petition that Parliament was to discuss matters of people are trying to sponsor, they bring money, the civil society, to advocate for issue of same-sex marriage, things like gayism, things like abortion, you know, and these are things that are never heard of. In the traditional days, you couldn't go and discuss that you want to have sex orientation. And as a matter of fact, even in Article 45 of the Constitution, it talks of family marriage between adults of different, of opposite sex. So I think the church should be able to come in at this particular time. The road that we're having now, the family values are totally rotten. Now, when it comes to the issues of privacy and public interest, like for instance, what happened in this aspect, you know, when a matter like this, where the state agencies come in, you know, Kenyans also have a right to information. And that's why you see hiding this issue has been very difficult. And of course, when it comes to matters of investigation, the DCI is responsible for that. But you see the lawyers were also questioning. You see, again, in this matter, we are hearing that Cohen had, there was a will that was transferring some property to the sister. And, you know, somebody has to come out and contest that. Under the Matrimonial Property Act, which was passed in Parliament, if you are married, you are together, whatever property you gain, you know, all of you have that interest. So you can't just come and say, that there's a will that, I don't know, 400 million should be given to the sister. So the commercial element is coming in. And Cohen with this lady Sarah, we are told they never had children. And in a marriage, children play a very critical role, particularly from the communities I come from. You know, when you have children, you know, you work hard because of your children. And a family which never had children, in terms of that confidence, you know, the confidence level, the interest goes down. So when you see this man and this lady, someone will think it's of a commercial interest in that particular marriage. But now this lady, much that, you know, there's the principle of innocent until proven guilty. You know, the circumstances under which the DCI came out, and we are being told, I saw Murgor asking, questioning, how did he come to know about this issue? You see, now they're turning the matter to the DCI, that maybe there's some more that he knows, that he wants to plant something.
And so, Senator Kang'ata, you're also a lawyer, so, and an advocate of the High Court. So, he talks of jeopardizing the case, and many would say that this is a trial in the court of public opinion or in the media. So how then do you ensure that, yes, you have the public interest, you have information flowing to the public, but at the same time you secure the integrity of the case?
Well, for me that is fairly difficult, taking into account we have also what we call freedom of expression and also freedom of the media. And for me it is upon the defense lawyer and also the prosecution to ensure the integrity of the case is maintained. But allow me to comment on the first question that you posed to my colleague, Senator. What is the cause of all this? I wish in Kenya we research more, because this is a fertile ground for more research. But personally, I feel Kenya, we have what we call a booming sector of what we call cross-generational relationships, where you find we have a rich spouse who is having a certain relationship with a younger spouse who is not well endowed resources. And for me, when you look at that phenomenon, it is being fueled by two factors. Number one, which is the most important one, the issue of income inequality. Of course, we had a situation where some Kenyans have become prosperous, but we have a huge underclass of poor people, particularly the young ladies. And number two also,
you call them poor?
Yes, I say that because they are young, they don't have a lot of money, and therefore they also feel somehow they can be hooked with an elderly person. Number two, of course, now the traditional forces that used to make people not to engage into illicit sex have now decayed somehow, or they have been on a decline. So you are talking about maybe our levels of religiosity somehow have been declining, and also exposure through, let's say, for instance, technology, media, WhatsApp and whatever, of a so-called good life. So those two factors seems to be fueling a huge upsurge of what we call cross-generational relationships. There are demerits of cross-generation relationships. Number one being there is what we call inequality of arms. The rich spouse often tends to have an overbearing influence to the so-called poorer spouse.
Okay.
And that somehow causes tension, and at times it can be violent and can lead to such kind of consequences. So for me, the solution lies in the long term to making Kenya a more equal society. That way, you'll have people entering into marital relationships as equals, as opposed to one who is more stronger, another one who is more weaker. You may have such kind of consequences. But I wish there is more research on the topic.
Okay.